should already be working on, kind of saving each of our images that we produce, or exporting each of our images that we produce for the web. And so we're going to talk about finding a place on the web to put those today, and how we're going to do all of that. So as you're working towards each of your 3 projects, make sure that you are exporting your images for the web and saving excuse me, each of your artist statements, because all of that will be included on our website. So I find that Weebly is the best kind of free website builder. I find that it's the easiest one. It's very easy to use, very simple. If you already have a website for your work, great. You can maybe, if it's possible, to create a new section of that website just for this class. We can totally do that. But if you do not have a website, I really highly recommend that you build one specifically. Well, you are required to build one for this class. So if you have one, please talk to me and let me know, and we can figure out how to work around that. So we're going to go to the sign up button, and in here you're going to put in your name, first name and last name, your email, and then you have to create a password and select a country for it. And then you say sign up for free. It's pretty simple. It's easy to do. Here, let me make this next one large. So then once you sign up, you have to choose which kind of website you need. We don't need an online store. We just need a website. And then through here, there's so many different themes, right? Even just because it says business doesn't mean it couldn't work for an art project. But I find that the ones, in the portfolio section are the best for just showing lots of images, right? So portfolio is like, when do you want to show lots of pictures of things you've done? So I really like the second one. There's ones like everywhere, like personal websites could be great, blogs, whatever. You have to just pick a style that you're really interested in and then go with that. There's also lots of opportunities to edit things. So I really like this one because it's super simple. It's just picture, 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 right? I think this is a great way to kind of get to work with. So I'm going to press the start editing button here, and it's going to take forever to load. And then it's going to show me this page, which has so many options that it can be a little intimidating. And you need to come up with a domain name for your project or for your digital portfolio. So here you can choose lots of different options. Ideally, you want something that's quite simple, that is easy to spell, etc. So you should name it like your name, or like Art by Kelly, or you could name it, digital dark room summer course, like whatever you want. I think just putting your name, or just putting your name, or like Kelly O'Brien portfolio, something like that could be really easy, because you could always add to this project for other courses. Like this would be a great place to put all of your art, so that when you go to get a job or an internship, or want to sign up for a residency or grad school, you have all of it already kind of located in a beautiful way in one location. So you can always edit everything on this page. So you can go in here, and I can say, and I can rename my project. I'm going to give mine the name Digital Darkroom. You should think about whatever the appropriate name is, which is going to allow us all to understand what we are looking at. You need to have a section of this that is like this website until the end of class should be specifically just about this class. So you might want to name it Digital Darkroom or Art 344, but the title of your website should be something that really gives us a clue as to what we are dealing with. Or if you feel like there's a conceptual theme that's tying all 3 of your projects together, maybe you could come up with a really creative title. But this website should be devoted just to this class. And then here we can change all of these things. If you go to the pages, it tells you what the 3 pages are here. So this is the title of our website. Then we have a home, about, and a contact chunk. If you don't like one of these, you can get rid of it or you can change it. So if you click on pages, it tells you which pages you have, and you can always add more pages. We need 3 pages because we have 3 different projects here. So I'm going to retitle my home page to Project 1. Oh, never mind. I changed my mind here. I'm going to change I'm going to have an about section, which is going to be a place where I write about me as a personal artist, my bio. And then I think I'm going to create 2 or 3 extra pages, one for Project 1, and then I'm going to create 2 more for Project 2 and Project 3. You don't necessarily need an about page. It could be really helpful. But you need to have a separate page for each project. So now I have all of my projects. And then if I want to put them in a different order, I just have to move them around. And so drag from the top to the bottom to have it go from left to right here. So I have home, project 1, 2, 3, and about. So then I can go back to theme or to build, and I can really start to change each of these, right? So here, my project is clearly not about cactuses and pineapples, so I might want to change some of these images. But I also only need 3 images here because I only have 3 different pages that I want to link to. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete some of these things that I don't necessarily need. So each one of these is kind of a different chunk. And each one of those chunks you can find over here. So if you want to add an image, you press on the image. If you want to add a slideshow, you press on the slideshow. If you want a space between things, but we'll go over this as I kind of build out my website here. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete the chunks that I don't want. And this is why I really like Weebly, because I think it's just very simple and easy to use, and it makes a lot of sense, and I don't find that it's too challenging to use. So now my first page is really shrunk down to just 3 images. And you can just keep deleting things, and then you just get 1 image here. And you can really start to change things and shift them around. So once you, let me turn, so if you click on one of these, if you just click on the image, you have the option to edit the image or replace the image. And so here we're going to go to replace an image, and then it says upload from your computer. And here I can then go to my UNC Art 344 project 2, and I can find my projects. Ideally, we're going to be getting our project folders from our digital portfolio folder that we have. The problem with Weebly is it only uploads images that are of a certain size. So and this is why it's really important that we go to File, Export, Save for Web in Photoshop and save those to our digital portfolio, because we cannot put really large images on Weebly. Weebly cannot accept any image over 10 megabytes, which some of your projects may end up being. So if I go to project 2 and I pick on a project that I really want, you'll see here that 1, it's a TIFF, and 2, it's 500 megabytes. So when I press open, nothing is going to happen. And so it's really important that you make sure that you save these as small enough files that you can actually load them onto Weebly. So if one of your files is too big, you need to go back in and export and save for web. So here I have this picture that I really like, that I think is really interesting. If I click on it, you can always change the size or really start to edit these if you want. I can kind of shrink it down if I don't want it to be so big, right? So you can really start to play and manipulate these to be whatever size you want on this website. And then if you want to link them to other things, you can always add a link. So like if I click on the image, it would take me immediately to something. So down here, we kind of have an about chunk and an image. So here, you might want to write a short bio about yourself. You could write like your name, how old, when you were born, and then tell us something about kind of your style of working and about the class. If you want the ability for other people to talk to you, send you emails, write you messages, etc., you can include contact information on this about page as well. And we'll get into that in a second here. So I'm back to kind of like my first page, and I'm really going to start building out my project pages now. So I'm going to go to my project 1, and here I'm going to add the image of my project 2. And here, because this used to be the contact page, it has this little thing for people to email me and this kind of stuff. And so the nice thing is, like, if I like this chunk but I don't want it on the page, I can click on this little arrow and I can move it to a different page, which I think is really helpful if you accidentally put something in the wrong spot, or like if you arrange your project 1 in a specific way and you want project 1, 2, and 3 to look the same, you can just press copy instead of move, and it will make a copy in project 2 or project 3. So that's a really helpful way to like spend a lot of time organizing one page and then be able to just copy and paste it to all of them to get a nice uniform look. So once I do that, it's just going to disappear. And then if I go to the about page, all of a sudden it is at the top, which is totally the wrong spot. But then I can click on that little bar and I can pull it down below, and you'll see the blue line, which kind of allows you to move things around. But right now I think this looks kind of funny, and so I really want these to be next to each other. But now that looks a little weird, so I'll have to just kind of stretch things out. And there's some strange spacing going on, so I'm just going to have to move things around and really start to organize it to get it right. Uh-oh. And so that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to go back to project 1. And here I'm going to start to delete some of this information and really get rid of the things that aren't really helpful to me, like spacers. There's a lot of them kind of built in, and so you really just want to try to get rid of whatever ones are kind of taking up extra space and really start to think about what is the format that you want. I recommend something quite minimal. Don't try to crowd the page too much. The more simple these images can look, the better. So we're going to include our artist statements with each one of these projects that we've written. So there's the opportunity for you to edit these artist statements from whatever you submit, because I'm going to give you feedback. And you're going to include your final artist statements with each of your final images so that people have an idea of kind of the story that you are telling. And then I'm going to click on this image and I'm going to replace this image . So here you can crop images, but we're not going to do that because we're doing all of that in Photoshop. So we're not going to use the edit button. We're going to go to upload a picture. And you'll notice here, my image is a PNG image, which Weebly will read, not a TIFF. And it's only 6 megabytes, so it's under 10, so I'm good to go. If it is above 6 megabytes or a TIFF file or a PSD, it will not open them. And so it might take a little bit to upload these images. It often takes a while. You can add a caption to your pictures if you'd like. See how long this takes. All right. So here my picture has uploaded, right? Looks great. I'm really happy with it. I might add a caption, which might be the title to my piece. And then if I click, you'll notice that the title shows up right below the image. You could also can create a title over here and drag and drop that over the image if you really like. So then I'm going to go to project 2. And this one's set up slightly different because it's a new page. And it has this weird header where it says like edit background, replace header layout. And it took me a while to figure out exactly what was going on here. And I was really annoyed by it because it's not exactly what I want. But I tried it out to see if I liked the header. Sometimes I think the header could be fun. But I was really frustrated with it because I just couldn't get it to really work the way that I wanted to. So I wonder if it uploads. So I'll show you what I did. So maybe we'll get to that. So here you can drag kind of a title in. You can drag some text in. You're going to include your second artist statement, right? We're going to include all of our written things. All of our artist statements will go in here, and all of our images. You could also include, because for project 2 we're going to do a written peer review, it might be really great to include that as well so that you have what someone else has written about your project there as well to really make this into a really beautiful formal website. You can also change bold, italic, underline. You can change the size. You can change the font. So there's lots of kind of capabilities here. So here, when you create a new web page, it comes with a header. And I think here I show you how to get rid of the header. Because I don't really want a header because I think it's kind of weird. And I think if you go to, I'm going to show you where it is just before I forget. So here, when you go to pages and you create a new page for project 1, you can here choose no header. And I think that's the best option because you'll notice that as I create project 1, it says no header. But then when I create a new standard page for project 2, it came with the header. And so you can always click here and get rid of the header. So I think that's really important to note at this point. So I'm going to go, this is 8, hold on one second. There we go. So here in my project 3, I want to create a slideshow so that it shows one of my 3 images, the second of my 3 images, and the third of my 3 images. And it kind of just scrolls through those automatically so that the viewer of my website doesn't have to do any of that hard work. So I'm going to click on the slideshow button here and drag and drop into my thing. And then here I can choose the style of my slideshow. My rule, the thing that I try to do all the time, is keep things as simple as possible, right? The simpler things are, the more minimal, the more people are going to focus on your work and not the design of your website. So I think choosing a very simple font, very simple colors, and a very simple slideshow is really the way to go. The crazier your fonts are and the more challenging they are to read, the harder it is going to be to view your website. The more crazy colors, the less I'm going to focus on the actual art, which is the most important thing. So I think the more simple we can make these, the better. So I'm going to go with the simple slideshow because that seems like the simplest option. And I'm going to press continue. And then I'm going to drag my photos in here, right? So I'm going to click on the ones I want. I understand that these are all under 10 megabytes, so I feel good about those. But you'll notice that this last one is 21 megabytes. So let's see what happens when I try to bring in these pictures. So I'm able to upload 2 images here. And I think those 2 are gonna work just fine. But I really want to have all 3 of my images here, right? So I'm gonna add those photos and I can always come back and add the next one. So here, I'm gonna click on this one. You'll notice that it's 12 megabytes. It's way too big because our limit is 10. And so it's gonna say that it's uploading for a long time, and I don't think it's actually gonna do it. I think it's gonna give me a warning about it. I think it's gonna tell me that it didn't work. So here it says, this image is too big, you need to pay for something. So I'm gonna say no thanks, right? Because I wanna use the free version. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go find that image. And I'm gonna figure out which one it is. You'll see here that it tells me how big it is. And so I'm gonna open it in Photoshop and I'm gonna go to export, save for web. And I'm gonna do this a second time. If you do it once, because the first time I saved it as a width of 2,500 pixels, but I can make it a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna go ahead and make it 1,500 pixels. And if I press save, we should notice a significant decrease in the size of it. And I'm gonna go ahead and just save that in my digital folder with photo merge small so that I understand that that's the small image of it. So now if I look at the small one, right, that one is 12. The one that says small after it is only 4 megabytes. So I know that's gonna work, and I'm probably not gonna see a huge difference in the image. So here I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go to add photos, and I'm gonna try it again. So now I'm gonna just drag and drop it in there, and I think it worked. So let me bring up this final thing. I got my stuff to work, but there's something weird happening here, right? Where there's 2 slideshows or something. So I'm gonna get rid of one of those blocks. If you hover around the outsides of strange squares, you'll notice that they move. So here I still have the header, which is annoying, and I'm gonna go to Pages, Project 3, and I'm gonna get rid of this header right there. No header. And that will just erase that part and bring my slideshow up to the top. So then if we watch my slideshow, it should go through all of the images and just continue to go through them. And so here, because this is kind of like my final project, I'm gonna give it a nice, really great title. Probably not Project 3, right? Come up with something that you think is really catchy, that really works for your project. And it will just go through each of your images and show these really wonderful, automatically. It will just go from picture to picture. And then we're gonna do our research statements, and we're gonna put those into our Project 3 as well. So it's actually really simple to kind of build these websites and get them all working together. You can add kind of spacers, which I think are nice to give the images some room to breathe from your artist statements. I think that's really helpful. I'm going to add a spacer between my project title and the images, but also between the top kind of line. I'm just going to space things out, give things room to breathe. We don't want things to be super crowded. We don't want it to be overwhelming. You know, we really just want it to work really well together. So, let me see, this is the last one. Did we watch this one? Give me 1 second to get this all up and going. So once everything looks great, and we're really excited about it, we've given everything some space. Give me 1 second. Okay. So once we've given everything some space and we feel really confident with it, we can go and we can start playing with some of the other kind of ideas. Like if you don't like the fonts that are used, this is a great opportunity to change the fonts and think about how things could become a little bit different. So I like fonts that don't have serifs. A serif is this kind of little tail off the edges of these words, you know, and these guys don't have serifs. It's important that you maybe choose 1 or 2 fonts. Don't choose like 37 different fonts, but what you could do is have one font in bold capitals and then have the exact same font in like light gray lowercase letters. And that might be a really good way to mix it up without having too many different types of information. So I'm going to look at the fonts and I'm going to choose one that doesn't have serifs, that's very simple, that's not crazy. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to change everything to be kind of uniform. I want everything to be very simple colors, legible, easy to read. I don't want any cursives. I don't want anything too wild. And I'm just going to go through and also think about the hierarchy, right? This is probably a very important thing. These are probably slightly less important. This is medium important. So you want to start to rank these things, like what needs to be the biggest font, what needs to be the smallest font. And you can go in and you can start to shift and change, like if it's a paragraph, is it going to be a smaller font? And this is just a really easy way to make things that look nice and uniform and like they go together. And so I don't want my project title to be too much bigger than this title. And I'm going to make it gray so that it's less important than this, but it's like secondary. So right now I think my hierarchy goes the title of my website, the title of my project, and then these tabs. And then of course, finally, kind of my paragraph text for each of my artist statements. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than it was. I don't want it to be too big because my artist statements for these projects are going to be quite long, but I really want it to just kind of flow nicely together. And we won't be really adding any apps to our projects. I think that's a little too much, right? We need something that's just really simple. We want to make sure that we have our site address and that we know what it is. Mine's called digitaldarkroomUNCG.weebly.com. Yours might be your first and last name, or yours might be Ashley's Digital Darkroom. We won't really be changing a lot of things here. We're making ours our portfolios. We're not going to have a store section to it because that's a little complicated. But we don't really need to change anything else here. And then we're going to hit the publish button, which pushes our website into kind of live space. So then if we click on that link, and you guys, this website is live, so you can go and look at it if you'd like, digitaldarkroomUNCG.weebly.com. And it brings you to this front page. And I have this one image on here. And then if you click on project 1, if you click on the about page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click what I did. Let me back up a little bit. is when you click on this image, when you click on the image that's on my home page, it just makes the image bigger, right? But what I want to do is when you click on the image that's on my home page, I want it to take you to my About page. So I'm going to click on the About page, and then I'm going to copy and paste this URL. Then I'm going to go back to where I edit things, and I'm going to go to my home page. I'm going to right click on the image, and I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to place that URL in here. And I'm going to make sure that I unclick the open a new window, and I'm going to press publish again, which is going to save my changes. Then if I go back to my home page and I click on that image, it should take me immediately to my About page. So that's a way that you can start to link things together from different places. And then I've got my project 1, project 2, and the smaller your images, the faster they'll load. So if your image is like 9.6, which I believe this image is 9.6 megabytes, it's going to load slower than a really small, than a 5 megabyte image. And then here is my final page that has my nice slideshow. And then here's my About page. So you will each be producing a digital portfolio for this class that has all of your artist statements and all of your final images. As with each of our projects, you have time to re-edit those and change those. So whatever you put on here doesn't necessarily have to be what you submitted as your final project, but should be a resubmission.